In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the differences between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. What's going on, everyone? My name is Bailey Kramer, and welcome back to my channel where we talk all things real estate investing. I've been getting asked a bunch lately, Bailey, should I invest in short-term rentals or long-term rentals? So I decided to make this video to break down the pros and cons of both strategies to help you decide which is best for you. And make sure you stay till the end because I'll be sharing my preferred strategy and which strategy I'll be doing more in the future. Before we break down the pros and cons, take your pointer finger and just gently touch the button on your computer that says subscribe. All right, thanks. All right, let's start with short-term rentals. As the name suggests, a short-term rental is a property that's rented out for a short period of time, whether that be one night all the way up to 30 nights. People hear short-term rentals, they typically think of platforms like Airbnb and VRBO. Short-term rentals have a lot of advantages to them. The first one being cash flow. Short-term rentals typically cash flow 3 to 5 times more than a property that's rented out for a long-term rental. And of course, that's market dependent and property dependent. So if you could rent out a property and collect $1,000 a month in rent from a long-term tenant, if you transform that property into a short-term rental, you can expect to collect anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per month. As you can see from the sheer numbers, the cash flow is a lot stronger. Another pro is flexibility and affordability. Maybe you buy a property in a scenic location, like a beach or mountain, and you want to use short-term rentals to subsidize your expenses so that you can enjoy the property too. With short-term rentals, that is totally possible. And you're in full control to pick the dates that you want to be at the property or the dates that you're not going to be there, and you can let guests stay there. The last pro to short-term rentals is the tools and resources available. There are so many tools and softwares out there to make your life as a host so much easier. My favorite tool that I'm using now is called Smart B&B. They help me make messaging guests automatic, and they even schedule cleaners right when someone books. If you want a deep dive into the tools that I use for my Airbnb business, let me know in the comments below and I'll make a video if enough people want it. Now, of course, short-term rentals have their downsides too. The first being that they are management intensive. Hosting people who are on vacation is a full-time job, and it takes an army of people to do so. From your cleaners to the person answering your messages to the handyman. There's a lot of different roles that need to be taken care of in order to deliver the best guest experience. Now, of course, you can automate and outsource a lot of these tasks using the tools like I mentioned before, Smart B&B, but it does cost time and money. And if you want to hire a property manager for your Airbnb, they're typically going to charge between 15 and 25%, depending on your market. The second disadvantage is the reliance on booking platforms like Airbnb and VRBO. While these platforms have so many benefits to hosts, the scary part is they could change their rules at any time. Maybe they start charging hosts a larger percentage, or maybe someone gives you a bad review, so Airbnb helps promote your property less. At the end of the day, you're just not in full control with these platforms. The last disadvantage is the inconsistency. For short-term rentals, your payout's unknown until you have bookings. And with vacations, there's markets that have peak season and there's markets that have off season. So during your peak season, you could be making a ton of money, but you have to account that in your off season, you might not be making that much. I have a property that brings in about $30,000 per month in the summer, but only about $6,000 in the winter. So you just have to account for the inconsistency with short-term rentals. All right, now the other strategy, which is long-term rentals. Just as it sounds, it's where a renter signs a lease for at least 12 months. Just like short-term rentals, long-term rentals have their pros and their cons. The first pro is consistency. You know that you'll be receiving the same amount of money on the same day of every single month. It's super nice to know that you have a check coming, and it takes some of the unknown factor out of it. The second pro is that it's not very management intensive. Once you have a renter in place, there isn't a whole lot to do. Yeah, there may be an occasional maintenance call or two, but it's a lot simpler to put systems in place to prevent the 2 a.m. calls like you hear in the landlord nightmare stories. Now on to the cons. The first con is that your lease is locked in for 12 whole months. If you're 1 month into the lease and you decide that you want to sell your property, you have to either sell your property to somebody who wants to inherit a tenant, or you have to pay your tenant to get out of there or pray and hope that they leave. The second con is that an unforeseen expense can completely wipe out your cash flow for months or years. Since your cash flow typically isn't the strongest in the first place with long-term rentals, if you have an unforeseen expense like a roof repair or a flood, you might have to drain all of your reserves and take the following months to just keep building those reserves back up and not take any cash flow. The third con is that it can be difficult to find a good tenant. Think about it. All the time that you spend from when you get the property to when the tenant moves in, you're actually losing money because you're actually paying the mortgage. So you're on a time crunch to find a tenant and to find one fast. Depending on your market, it could be tough to find a qualified renter fast. As I told you in the beginning of the video, I'm going to be sharing which strategy I like better. Before I do me a quick favor and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. All right, my favorite strategy is, drum roll, short-term rentals. I currently own 2 short-term rentals and I'll be sharing a ton more behind the scenes with them. And I'll be looking to acquire a lot more in the coming months. Let me know in the comments below which strategy sounds most appealing to you, short-term rentals or long-term rentals. If you have any specific questions about short-term rentals or long-term rentals, go ahead and leave your question in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them. And if you got value out of this video, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. And until next time, peace.